English 373, week 2, part 4. Okay, we're doing good. Um, there is a. I think it's worth thinking about Macbeth and Lady Macbeth as a killer couple. In which case, their relationship to me, the modern relationship I can think of that's most similar to the Macbeths, is Joker and Harley Quinn. There is a lot of that in the two of them. But you could also say Bonnie and Clyde, and right. I mean, there have been killer couples in the world, and that's what they are. They're a killer couple. They're in love with each other. They really are. I know it seems like it's a fucked up kind of relationship, but like they're in love. Right. Well, let's keep looking at this scene. It really is amazing. I love this scene so much. Um, so she says, art thou feared to be the same in thine own act and valor as their art and desire? She said, would thou have that which thou esteemest the ornament of life? That's the crown. He thinks it's really. He thinks it's the ornament of life is the crown. Would thou have that which thou esteemest the ornament of life, and live a coward in thine own esteem, letting I dare not wait upon I would, like the poor cat in the adage? It's one of those moments you need a footnote for, and there's no footnotes on here. So she says, you want the crown, you want the ornament of life, but if you don't go after it, then you're going to have to think of yourself as a coward, right? You think of the crown as the ornament of life, but if you don't go after it, and if you want it and do nothing about it, you're going to have to think of yourself as a coward. And then she says, he compares him to the poor cat in the adage. An adage is like a saying. You don't know what that expression is because nobody uses it anymore. But the expression is that the cat wants the fish, but he doesn't want to get his paws wet. It's a metaphor, obviously, for his situation in which he wants the crown, but the way we would put it, he doesn't want to get his hands dirty. He doesn't want to commit murder. He doesn't want blood. He wants the crown, but he doesn't want blood in his hands, just like the cat wants the fish, but doesn't want water on his paws. Water is also water can be sometimes slang for blood. In the military, they sometimes will use the word wet works, which sounds like it means the Navy or Navy SEALs or something, because it sounds like it has to do with water. But wet work actually is just a euphemism. It's a nice way of saying bloody work. It means very violent work is wet work. So if you're like an assassin for the military, you're in wet works is like the nice way to say that. Okay, sorry, I got distracted by thinking about a West Wing episode. All right. Um, all right, cool. So let's go back on this. And Macbeth tries to shut her up at this point. He says, "Prithee, peace," which really means something like "shut up." Um, and then he says this: I dare do all that may become a man. Who dares do more is none." Meaning, I do everything that a man would do. To do more than that, to kill the king, I wouldn't be a man anymore. I'd be a monster. Um, that is one of the most interesting responses in all of Shakespeare. Something very fascinating about his psychology has been revealed in this moment. She says to him, "If you love me, you'd do it. What are you, scared?" And he goes, "I am a man." She never said he wasn't a man. But that's what he heard her say. That's his psychology is such that when she calls him scared, when she says, "You don't love me," what he hears is, "You're not a man. You're not a real man." There's a form of therapy from the 70s, the couples therapy. It's kind of cute, actually. I kind of like it. This may help you out in your personal relationships. I actually think it's kind of good. When when you ever get in a fight with somebody about something really minor and stupid, like doing the dishes or taking out the trash, and you get in this huge fight, um, there's a therapy thing where they tell you to tell the person you're talking to, when you say blah blah blah, I hear blah 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 blah. But you're supposed to fill that in. So the idea is that when you get in a fight over dishes or when you get in a fight over taking the trash out, that's not really what you're fighting about. If you're really, nobody gets that mad about a single trash bag. If somebody gets really mad about it, it's because you're mad about something bigger. So, for example, in therapy, you might, if you, let's say you got in a fight with your wife because she told you to take out the trash, and then you flipped out, and then the two of you are screaming at each other, and they're like, "We need to go to a therapist." And the therapist would say, "Try this. When you say take out the trash, I hear," and then I would say, "When you say take out the trash, I hear you're my servant. Do everything I'm telling you to do. I'm your boss." And that's what you're fighting about, right? You're not fighting about one trash bag. You're fighting about the fact that maybe you think your partner treats you like a butler. Um, so that's what's happening in this scene, is that when she tells him, "What are you, scared?" He hears, "You're not a real man." That's interesting. It's really interesting because Macbeth seems like to fit a definition of like a real man in this kind of world where he's like a soldier who murders people in the battlefield and he's a badass, etc., etc. But that's what he hears. There's a Simpsons line where Marge says, Marge and Homer are getting in a fight, and she says, "You only hear what you want to hear," and he says, "Yes, I would like some eggs." Okay, let's take a look at this. So Macbeth says to her, it just tells you a lot about his psychology. That's what he's thinking about, issues of manliness. She never said anything about him not being a man, but he reacted like she did. Interesting. Um, so she tells him, "What, are you scared?" And he says, "I dare do all that may become a man. Who dares do more is none." Meaning, if I do more than manly, meaning if I go murder the king, I'll be a monster. She says, "What beast was it then that made you break this enterprise to me?" Right? When you had the idea, were you a beast? And then she says this: "When you durst do it, then you were a man." Meaning, when you dared to kill the king, when you had the thought to kill the king, then you were a man. And to be much more than what you were, you would be so much more the man. So you see what she did? She's really got her hooks in him now, because if he cares about, he just revealed, I think she knew this already, but he revealed to us that he cares about manliness, right? Because she said he was afraid. She said, "You're afraid." He said, "I'm a man." And she said, "Oh, you want to be a man? When you dared to take the crown, you were a man. If you had that crown, you would be the most manly man." So she knows that he cares about masculinity. And so she makes her argument in those terms, saying she is an expert at his psychology because she knows he cares about manliness. So she says, "Oh, you care about manliness? Being the king would make you the man, because that's what he cares about." No, she doesn't say gold. "Oh, you'll be so rich." I don't think he cares about money, but he cares about masculinity. He cares about being a man, and that's why she doesn't say, "If you get the crown, you'll be rich." That's maybe what you, the student, would care about. What Macbeth cares about is being manly, and so she says, "If you get the crown, you'll be a man." Um, and then there's one of these sentences that I actually think is quite beautiful. But it's a little confusing to read. She says, "Nor time nor place did then adhere, and yet you would make both. They have made themselves, and that their fitness now does unmake you." I just think it's lovely. Neither time nor place did then adhere, and yet you would make both. Meaning, when it wasn't the time to kill Duncan, when it wasn't the time or place to kill Duncan, you wanted to do it. Now he's sleeping in that room. It's the time and place to do it, and now you don't want to do it. So again, she's really going after him well. She says, "Oh, you were so interested in killing the king when it wasn't the time and it wasn't the place. Now that it is the time and the place, you've changed your mind." I just think it's a lovely sentence. "Nor time nor place did then adhere, and yet you would make both. They have made themselves, and that their fitness now does unmake you." And then she says possibly the most important line in the entire play, and the most important bit of the play, and it's right here. It's one of the craziest parts of the play. It's this right here that I'm zooming in on. It's one of the most crazy moments in all of Shakespeare. "I have given suck, and know how tender 'tis to love the babe that milks me. I would, while it was smiling in my face, have plucked my nipple from his boneless gums and dashed the brains out, had I so sworn as you have done to this." Okay. All she wants to say there, very simple. All she wants to say there is, "Hey, if I promised to do something, I would do it." That's all she wants to say. It's just that she's chosen the most bonkers fucking example to make her point. The example she has chosen for her point is, she says, "I have had a baby, and I have had that baby breastfeeding. And if I had promised to murder that baby, I would have fucking murdered that baby." Lady Macbeth, everybody. This is why Lady Macbeth is amazing. All right, I'll pick it up in the next video.